Assalamu alaikum. So today, um, we're getting ready to go over to Mom's and bring in wood again before dark. Um, as for number 9, I was thinking experience. I'm not really sure how to word this. Like maybe experience over experiments, I'll say. And what I mean by that, for example, is sometimes people will want to come and live off the grid, and they'll have an idea that, they got all these new ideas that they want to try, and they don't give a whole lot of credence to the experience. Like, they'll just be like, well, you guys are so old-fashioned, and why don't you try doing this or that? For example, one time it was suggested to me by the family that came from Colorado, why don't we use oxen to farm with rather than workhorses? So there's no really easy question for that, but I guess the reason we use horses is because that's what everybody was already using, and so we just kind of followed with that. But a lot of times I think what's commonly being used is this, there's a reason for that, and that's because it's easier access, and horses are more flexible than oxen. You can use a horse to drive to town, and you can go 15-20 miles an hour, or you can use them to plow the field or whatever. And oxen obviously are only going to be so I mean, even though sometimes it's not easily explained, there's kind of a point for everything. And I think people coming from another culture or coming from the city or whatever, they take that for granted, and think that maybe because you don't have an easy explanation for it, that it must be unnecessary and it must be an easier way. Another example would be like on the fence here. So we just retighten this, me and my hired man here. We just retighten these fences here, and in order to retighten them, you have to disconnect them from every post. I'll make another video later to show exactly how to put up a barbed wire fence. But you have to connect them from each post. So then you got 6 strands. So that means you have to tighten them one strand at a time. You have to disconnect them from each post and then put a come along on one end and stretch it tight again, basically. But I've had people ask me, why do you have to take them all out? Why not just, it'd be easier if you just took a couple staples out and then stretched them, and then you would have to go take them all apart and then go re-nail them again. But obviously, if you don't do that, you can't get the wire completely tight. So I just think that's an important thing that people overlook, is that sometimes even though it's just a tradition, there's a reason behind it, and the reason that the tradition has lasted so long is because it works. So don't take for granted that, And the other thing I do is on anything, if I want to start doing something, then I go and see the people who do it and go watch them and learn, how they do it, and then decide, what from there, what's the best way of doing it. But I would take their experience over book knowledge a lot of times, because they've been doing it. Like book knowledge is good. It teaches you a lot of things, but it can't beat experience. You know, sometimes they'll tell you to do it this way in the book, and then if you find somebody who's been doing it all their life, they'll tell you, well, don't do it quite like that. If you do it like this, and then move this over here to the side just a little bit, it'll be it'll go on a lot easier. So to me, I think some people that I've met that have wanted to live off the grid have taken for granted the whole you know, the old man with the experience type thing, or the families that have been living off the grid forever, and think that they can kind of come in from you know, another world and reinvent the wheel, and think that everybody's a bunch of dummies for doing it like this and they know better. I've seen a lot of that, and in the end, I think most of them ended up realizing that, you know, people were doing it a certain way because that's the best way. That's the way it worked, etc. And I would say last of all, and this isn't necessarily a negative thing, but it can be a challenge when you're working with other people. I think one thing this lifestyle really builds or really can create be a bonding experience for people, for a family. Um, you know, because you have to work together so much, and it really you know, you wake up grumpy, and you know, you have to overcome that and be able to work together, because the only way it's going to function is if everyone works together. So I think that, and some days it can really be difficult when you're just having a bad day and you want to be left alone, but overall it's a very positive experience, because you learn to be more sensitive to each other, and working together can really have a lot of positive impacts that I found, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, you know, I think it's really the best, a really good way to live. You know, it's calm and peaceful and just simple, and you know, close to the earth. And you know, if you're a religious person, you know, like we are religious, it makes us feel closer to God as well. Like, you know, just be having not that there's any salvation in it, but in this lifestyle, but the fact that your life is slower, you have more time to think about God, and you're closer to the creation, so you can focus on, you know, whatever your religious beliefs are. In our case, it is submission to God. But anyways, that's pretty much what I think is a huge benefit from, yeah, something that, you know, I get from it. And just working together, and also networking with people in the, you know, neighborhood, the community, and everybody working together, you kind of understand each other's pain a little bit. Everybody's kind of living off the land and struggling to survive, and so I think it makes a difference for sure. But we are getting ready to go over and get wood for Mom. So I'm gonna take off here, and hopefully this was beneficial to you, and hopefully we'll see you in videos coming up, inshallah.
Get up. Steady. Steady. Come on. Get up. Steady. Whoa.